delighted this is after lunch, so I feel particularly packed into this top. There's a lot more room up here. If anyone's in the back looking for seats, come on up. There's space. I have, wow, you really can't see anybody. I've known Charles and Kyle for quite a good long time. They're good friends of mine. They've been inspiring. They've been very kind to me, both professionally and personally. They've been pretty frustrating to me many times, both professionally and personally. But normally when they're being frustrating, it's because they're doing something disruptive. They're doing something that makes life difficult for other people or makes it difficult for just the systems. And it's probably frustrating because I know they're normally right. They have this remarkable ability to look at a system, see that it's maybe broken or can be improved, decide to tear the whole thing down and rebuild it and do it differently, even if that system is something they created in the first place, which is true in many times I can think of. I think of Charles. I can think when I first joined Intelligentsia, we were working on this big education program with Mike Phillips, and it was this huge thing we worked on. I can think of so many nights we'd be in my small apartment in Chicago working on this program, and right as we were getting close to launching it, Charles decided the whole thing was dumb, and that he didn't like it anymore, that it was wrong to try to test people for an exam, because all they were going to do was prepare for the exam. They weren't going to have the true knowledge and the true skill set. And he probably was right on some level about that. But like, we had done so much work, and then he was just like, I don't think it's good anymore. We shouldn't do it. But it wasn't, Charles doesn't whisper. He was pretty blatant about it. And wouldn't shut up about it. Another time was when Charles didn't like how we would pick coffees in the morning in the stores. He didn't like the way the baristas would just choose, so he decided they should do full cuppings every single morning at the shops at Intelligentsia. And that's now a thing that all the stores do. So in the same vein that they do opening shifts and put chairs out and are just kind of cleaning the place, getting them ready to open the doors, they're doing a full cupping. And that still happens there. It's an amazing thing. Well, Kyle, I think about, and this is kind of a small thing, but Intelligentsia has made their own cups, and when they're opening one of the stores, I mean, before that time, a lot of coffee was just served in diner mugs. It was served, that's how it was done, or those large kind of, often places would serve it in bowls, or, not bowls, but like latte cups, which is always really annoying because it spills places. And so Intelligentsia made their own cups and mugs, but not satisfied with that, Kyle decides we need to put it on a wooden tray with a decanter and have it look like this. It's hard to recall just how difficult that seemed at the time, because it wasn't being done at all. And you look at the show today, or the show this past week, and you walk around, and I saw one catalog from one supply company that had coffee trays in it. It's such commonplace now in coffee shops all around the world, progressive coffee shops, specialty coffee bars, to serve coffee like that. But it was a moment where Kyle wasn't happy with something, wanted to change it, proposed something that just seemed so ridiculous at the time, but now it's commonplace and now it's accepted. He had that same attention when it came to just standards in the stores, where spoons went, how what was the right pour exactly for every drink, latte art-wise, and if what was acceptable, what wasn't acceptable, and being very absolute in those standards. But then in true Kyle and Charles fashion, I think when they left Intelligentsia and then launched G&B and Go Get 'em Tiger, and I'll let them talk about that, to me, I see those spaces as them rebelling against all those systems in their previous life and looking at new things. And it's that kind of watchful eye that they have, that constant eye, that they're looking at these systems, always seeing how to make them better, that makes what they do so inspiring, so occasionally frustrating, but it's always interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, Kyle Glanville and Charles Babinski.
Wow. Prepare to be disappointed. That was a very kind, nice introduction from Stephen. Stephen actually plays a role in our story that we're going to tell today.
Yeah.
Which is the story of opening one coffee shop.
So this is Kyle Glanville, and this is Charles Babinski. So, hello everyone.
So, this is Grand Central Market. This is in downtown Los Angeles. It's a 100-year-old public open-air market, 20,000 square feet. Lots of heritage. There's Salvadorian food. There's Chinese food. There's a Japanese bento place, 1,000, it feels like, taquerias. Yeah. It is a place that has a lot of tradition and a place that has a lot of people. If you were to go to Grand Central Market on the weekend, it's absolutely heaving with people.
Yeah, it's a constancy of people, especially Saturday, Sunday. There's a lot of exciting shops that have gone in, and in the early days of the people of Grand Central Market, who have this downtown Los Angeles institution, trying to turn it a little bit more upscale, we had an opportunity to open up a shop there, which was incredible because we're this small business, we have no money whatsoever, and we have this prime location, this prime opportunity in a place that's a part of LA. And it was important for us looking at this to do something great. I mean, this was going to be our first real foray into a coffee shop. We had ideas of what sort of excellence we wanted to achieve or strive for, but it had to be tied specifically to this market and to this space.
So what we did when we were creating this place is we decided that we would take this we maybe have a tendency to be kind of in the clouds with the way that we think about things, and we decided that what we were going to do differently at GMB was we were going to identify our top goals about what we wanted to do, and we served coffee, and we were going to throw, as Stephen mentioned, we were going to throw everything out that we had learned before and only make choices that were absolutely in service of those goals. And so we needed to identify what our goals were going to be. And our first goal that we identified was based on the context of Grand Central Market. We needed to serve as many people as humanly possible on a daily basis. And so the myth or the word is that 10,000 people will pass through Grand Central Market on any given day, and we were the only coffee shop in the whole place. And so to our mind, we wanted 10,000 people coming to GMB every day. Not there, but we're working on it. And so our first goal was to serve as many people as possible.
And the second goal was to serve delicious drinks. And this is definitely within the context of that first goal. We want to serve as many people as possible. We want to make sure that all of those people are getting the same quality drinks. This meant that we had to consider all of the different systems that are involved, having a consistent recipe. I think just as importantly, it was recognizing that theoretical 10,000 people who are walking in, not all of them drink coffee. Maybe 60% of them drink coffee, or maybe even a smaller percentage would ever even think about going to a coffee shop or drinking it outside of the home. So we had to be considering a menu where we incorporated other things, not just tea, hot chocolates, but exciting, fun, delicious drinks that have historically not been on coffee shop menus.
And our third goal was to have a very intimate, personal style of service. And Stephen figures into this story here because after Charles and I had decided that we were going to go off and start our own thing, we had a little break moment, and Stephen happened to be getting married in that moment in Spain. And we went to Madrid, and if you've been to Madrid, there's this really special thing that happens throughout the city, which is that on basically every corner there's a little sandwich shop, and they sell sandwiches called bocadillos, which are like little crusty baguettes with different kinds of cured ham, maybe cheese, usually no sauce, and they're super tasty. They range in price between €1 and €3, and the thing that you drink with one of these things is a caña, like a tiny beer that's always €1. And it's a great place where people can sort of duck in if you're going between meetings, or if you're just done with work, or at any point in the day. As a sort of transition point from one thing to the next, you can poke into this place and you stand at the bar, shoulder to shoulder with all the people who are at the same sort of transition point in their day, and just have this quick, really, really delicious snack. And it shares a lot of things in common with coffee because you're talking about, you could easily argue that the cured ham in Spain is the best in the world in general. And it's like an absolute luxury, but it's only €1 or it's only €3 at most. And you have the entire sort of range of that community represented shoulder to shoulder in that shop. Much like a coffee shop, you have lawyers and famous actors and politicians and construction workers, and all of the village people are present. And we were really, really inspired by that trip to Spain.
Yeah, it was like, this is this engaging, excited community atmosphere that in our minds is like, that's what makes the best coffee shops the way that they are. And we had this opportunity for a space in Grand Central Market, and it was like a prime location right on Hill Street where there used to be this juice stand. We're a small business. We had pretty much no money. We started off with about $7,000, and we used it to, we went in there one day, demolished everything that we could as far as the front bar, spent that $7,000 grabbing restaurant tables and putting up a new sort of plywood bar all along the front. And within 8 days, we were open. If you look at this picture, that's it.
That's by far the most attractive perspective.
And if you went behind the counter, it wasn't that great. But like that linea is on just a normal restaurant table that by the end of the tenure there was starting to buckle. And if you see the menu board over there, that's just drywall that's covering up all of the juice taps that used to be there. Like, we didn't even have enough money to remove the stuff that was useless for us. So we just covered up the juice taps, and the juice fridge was whole bean storage.
But it really worked, and it served our purposes because on the front bar facing Hill Street, we had 28 feet of linear bar space. And it allowed us to give this intimate kind of service that we desired, because rather than having people line up, stare at the back of the head of the person in front of them, wait for the register, order off a menu, pay, and then go wait in another line, that 28 feet gave us what felt like limitless room for people to stand at the bar shoulder to shoulder, and rather than them trucking their way through their journey to the register, for us to go to them.
Yeah.
And so this was a pretty busy shot of what it looked like. And then we just had the 28 feet in front. We had 4 stools on either side. And in the back, we had like a back of house. So we were just focused on the one side.
Yeah. And that's, to be totally fair, it was pretty rough. Like, we were doing something exciting.
Homemade.
Very homemade.
Artisan.
And we had a lot of sort of workarounds where if we didn't have enough money for something, we just sort of made it happen. One of the most insane, looking back on it, is that we didn't have an ice bin. We had an ice machine in the back, right? But we didn't have an ice bin. So every time somebody ordered an ice drink, somebody would have to go in the back and get the ice. We eventually figured out a system whereby we bought a doorbell, and whenever anybody needed an ice bin or an ice setup, they would just press the doorbell and it would go ding dong in the back. And there was actually like a sort of a Morse code system that would dictate what the ice setup was, because there would be different ones. And the New York Times wrote about us and called us the best iced latte in America. And suddenly we're making, 8-10 times more ice drinks. And it was literally just somebody in the back hearing a doorbell going constantly, just throwing up their hands saying, oh my God.
If you've watched Breaking Bad, you might remember the scene where the wheelchair and the bell, it was like that.
Yeah, it was like that.
And at least one face was blown off, unfortunately.
But it was so early, like to expend money on an ice bin and put it in the front was something that we had to jump into.
Yeah. Felt huge.
Yeah, it was huge. But the cool thing about it is that we were doing something that we'd never done before, which is this bar-style service and everything that goes into it. And as a proof of concept, it was incredible.
Yeah, and actually, at one point, we hit sort of peak business where we would serve 145 drinks in an hour. And when that was happening, you could really feel the plywood start to buckle under the weight of the thing. And so we realized that it was time to put our sort of grown-up pants on and take a real risk and tear the whole thing down.
And to a great extent, make the coffee shop that we had dreamed about.
Yeah.
So
GMB 360.
GMB 360. We basically got to go back to all of those goals and all of those ideals and just sit down and say, like, what have we learned and what is the best way to incorporate both what we want to do and what we've learned into a space. We love that bar style with the long bar up front. And we loved the idea that you could go up anywhere, that there was never a point where somebody felt that they had to walk through some sort of complex system just to get served. So we went with a 360-degree bar all the way around, with essentially unlimited points of sales. On a weekend, we might have 6 points of sale, but theoretically, we could have more. We could have somebody outside the space, essentially limitless ability to take on orders.
And to serve our purposes of both serving delicious drinks and serving as many drinks as possible, we moved the espresso machine, rather than having it at the front or off to the side or right in front of the customer area, we actually relocated it to the center of our 360-degree bar, not to put it on a pedestal and emphasize the theatricality of coffee brewing, but actually to make coffee preparation more of a back-of-house operation. And we used to joke that, our dream, if you've ever been in a kitchen in Los Angeles or kitchen anywhere, the minute you walk through the door, there's usually banda music playing, and our joke was like, we want banda playing at the espresso machine.
We want it to feel like a place that's just like, great things are coming out of it. It's busy, it's packed, people are being efficient and quick.
And by moving it off the bar, we preserved all that bar space for that intimate, personal customer service that we hope to get. And we almost tripled the amount of area that we could serve customers. So 28 felt like a lot, but then we added 28 on back and 10 on either side. So suddenly we have almost 3 times as much area to serve people. 6 points of sale, and up to 6 dedicated people whose sole job is to take orders, pour ice waters, etc.
Yeah, if you think about it, we're separating out, the service area being separate from the preparation area. Let us maximize both. And with that island in the middle, we didn't start with the right configuration, but having that space dedicated to it has allowed us to change it up as time has gone to be more efficient.
Yeah, and this is a pretty good view of the 360 thing. You can see the right side in this photo, and I will tell you right now that garbage bag is driving me fucking crazy. I cannot handle it. It's almost too much. On the right side, that's basically 3 paces off of Hill Street, which is a really busy part of the downtown core. And then on the left side, you have bar stools, and we have order anywhere plastered everywhere around the bar because we actually do encourage people to approach from any angle and belly up to the bar to order. The neon is awesome. It's pretty good.
Serving these infinite number of people, right, the 10,000 people who are walking through, meant that it's like, and because of the 360 bar, it meant that we had so much more access, so much more ability to capture them. We needed to up our ability to make those drinks quickly. I mean, it's not just about being able to make those drinks, theoretically, like having the capacity for it. Small differences in ticket times are going to have a big effect on how the space works. Like if somebody comes up to the bar and they order a coffee and it takes 4 minutes, that person is going to be in a sort of in-between space for that whole 4 minutes. And as more people come up, it becomes more chaotic. So it was incredibly important to have this stuff happen quickly. one of the big ones, one of the first sort of obvious ones was batch brewing instead of pour-overs. We both love pour-overs. We've had a lot of experience with them. But batch brewing allowed us to have a consistent recipe that was being controlled by a very consistent machine. And it was something that, it wasn't a shortcut. It was a way where we could take the energy and focus out of the moment and put it into preparing for it. So making sure that the water was right, making sure that the recipe was right, that our grind is right, that our coffees are good. If you do all of those things with batch brewing, the resulting cup is going to be delicious. And the resulting cup is only going to take 15 seconds to give for a customer, which is a lot easier than 4 minutes.
And I think it's important not to conflate relying on batch brewing with suddenly working less hard to brew your coffee. If you've owned a batch brewer and you've owned like these nice coffee grinders, you know that there are days when you come in and it's not right or it's not the same or something is slightly off, and all of the parameters that are essential to control when you're doing a pour-over coffee are just as essential when you're batch brewing. And if you need to come in and you need to weigh your water every morning.
Yeah.
You need to come in and use a refractometer to make sure that you're getting the right extractions. You need to become familiar with how the bed of coffee appears when the extraction goes well versus when it doesn't. And you have to familiarize yourself, importantly, with the flavors that you want to put into the world. There was another system that we adopted that I think was probably mentally the hardest leap for us to take, because we have all been handed down an absolute about espresso brewing, which is that you must grind immediately before you brew espresso. If you go back to our list of goals, we do not have a fourth goal that is we must grind immediately before brewing espresso. So this is one where we could learn from really good high-volume restaurants. In general, are you guys familiar with the concept of mise en place? Like a little bit of head nodding. It basically means preparing and portioning. And I think it translates to things in place, or everything in place. And if you watch a really high-volume, high-quality kitchen, you'll see lots of portioned out bits of herbs, chopped up, spices, blended, cuts of meat, maybe cut, maybe even vacuum sealed and cooking in a bath of water. And that is so that when you order a steak, they're not pulling out a side of beef and sawing the side of beef, and it doesn't take an hour to get your dish. And in coffee, we've kind of like just taken as word from about 1988 forward that we have to grind instantly before brewing. And we decided to adopt a more mise en place scenario. And the reason we did is because when you grind on demand, if you want to weigh every shot to within 1/10 of a gram, which is something that we thought was absolutely essential to maintain our recipe, you are going to be in front of your customer tinkering with your portafilter to such a degree that you're wasting a lot of time. So we will weigh out and pre-batch
to
72, maybe even more, 48, 96 batches of espresso.
Yeah. With the goal of using it, I mean, we're always using it within 30 minutes, but it's something that we do in preparation. And it's pretty simple. It's a cup on a scale with the rober, and you're just going through and weighing it. As a side note, in trying to find ways to do these things better, we're like, well, what if there was something that, like some sort of a grinder that you turned it on and it filled up a chamber with grounds and then very accurately, volumetrically dosed them? So, which is basically the rober that we all started off on, clacking as fast as we could. And these things are relatively cyclical, and that works as well. But it's funny how this stuff happens. So we have this consistent dose, and we also have the Linea, the PB, which has been spectacular, and just using
that
volumetrics.
That is a great piece of equipment.
Yeah. I know we're in the right place, but I mean, I think we're excited about new things, but we're always skeptical. And the PB has been spectacular, and to the point where like we would never go back to anything else. But we've got the grinding to 1/10 of a gram. We've using the volumetrics of the PB to give us a consistent output. And this lets us do so many things, right? First off, it speeds up the espresso preparation in the moment because you're doing more of the work. Remember, this is the ability to do more focused work outside of the moment.
And on busy days, we pay somebody just to stand there and weigh out the espresso.
Yeah. But you're doing more of the work, so it makes the actual preparation faster to the point where somebody can dose out 3 portafilters. I think our fastest person has dosed out 3 portafilters in 28 seconds, right? Tamped, ready to go in the machine. And that means that you get those in the machine, you turn it on, and in the 30 seconds, while those shots are brewing, that guy has 3 more portafilters going where he's cleaning them out, dosing, tamping, 30 seconds. So this one human being can keep this Linea PB operating constantly, which essentially means that we could do 360 double shots in an hour if we wanted to.
Yeah, and last Saturday we almost hit 1,500 drinks. And for most people, that's like you would need like maybe 2 4 groups or something, or like you'd have to work that out. We do this all on one 3-group PB.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mike. But buy more anyways.
Another thing that has been really important is predictive shot pulling. Our busiest hours, we're doing upwards of over 200 drinks. Our busiest days, we're doing 1,500. Like if somebody walks up to our space, there's like a 65% chance they're getting an espresso shot. Somewhere between a 50 and a 65% chance they're getting an espresso shot. So we know as people are walking up that we can get shots ready for them. And because our busy times are so busy, if we get, that first drink out in 30 seconds faster or 45 seconds faster or a minute and a half faster, that means that every single drink that comes after it in the rush that could last 2-3 hours is going to come out quicker. And it means that we're going to hit small lulls more often where we can regroup and get ready and be prepared for the next group of people that come up.
Yeah. Actually, now would be a good time to show the video. This is a video that actually shows our style of preparation, shot by the Life and Time guys.
At G&B Coffee, we started with a 360-degree coffee bar, which meant that customers could walk up to any point of the bar and order coffee. G&B was inspired to a great degree by Grand Central Market itself. We all know exactly how a traditional coffee shop works. You walk into the shop, and there's a line of people slowly filing towards a single POS system where you have a cashier taking their order and their money and then putting that order to the barista. The barista makes the drinks while the customer waits in a designated waiting area. At G&B, wherever there's counter space, people can get served. The POSs are mobile. There is no specific place where people need to go to order. And once somebody orders, they can stay where they are until they get their drink and enjoy it. We have so many possible points of sale. The baristas have to be able to make those orders relatively efficiently, or people start to line up again. We have a busy coffee bar. We're going to need to make an incredible amount of espressos incredibly fast, and they need to be the exact same recipe. So this meant pre-grinding and pre-weighing espresso doses. And fresh coffee is incredibly important, and that as long as the coffee wasn't sitting for more than 30 minutes, we weren't seeing a major degradation in flavor. Volumetric espresso machines are measuring the amount of water that is going into the portafilter and can repeat the amount of water that you need with just the push of a button. The combination of pre-grinding, pre-weighing, and using volumetrics allowed us to serve espresso really quickly. That extra time allows you to do so many different things, and those things reach the customers. Oftentimes at a traditional coffee shop, baristas will be preparing one espresso at a time. Now, to prepare a single espresso, it takes about 30 seconds, which means a barista is going to be able to prepare 3 shots a minute. We're able to load 3 portafilters, an exact dose of coffee, in 30 seconds. While those espressos are being prepared, we can actually be pulling 3 shots at the same time, which means 6 shots of espresso a minute. We're able to prepare enough for 360 drinks an hour. For filter coffee, we moved to batch brewing, where a machine is consistently making large batches throughout the day. Say that a customer comes in and orders a filter coffee and a latte. While the person behind the espresso machine is preparing the espresso and somebody's steaming the milk, the barista who took the order is pouring off the coffee. That customer might have been waiting 90 seconds for their order. What we're really excited about is the idea that you could have 10 of those people show up at the exact same time and get their drinks just as quickly. Now, this isn't just a math problem. It's not just X amount of customers, X amount of espressos. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, a coffee shop is about serving a community. We wanted to have a place that was exciting and engaging and unlike any coffee bar that we had ever been to.
So I think it's important to say that all of the things that we're talking about, all of the systems that we're describing, are in service of these goals. They're in service of this experience that we want the customers to have. To be honest, we have tried many things, and these are the ones that worked. And there's been a bunch of things that have been either inconsistent, or they didn't work, or they were complete and utter failures. And it's worth mentioning a few of them. When we first started, coming from batch brewing, we really wanted to do pour-overs. Like we thought that was like going to be the best no matter what, and it was important to have the best coffee. So we started off doing like 1 liter plus Calitas, and it was one of those things where, maybe like a couple weeks in, it's like, oh god.
But there was a pretty cool. I was just thinking about this before we talked, and we didn't talk about this beforehand. So this is about to get bad.
Yeah.
We were doing 1 liter Calitas, like pour overs, and then we were like, man, pouring over, it really is a drag. What can we do?
What if a machine did it?
What if we had a machine to do it? So we got a batch brewer, and we brought it in, and we like pulled out the basket, and we're like, get that out of here, and we put the Calita under it. And then we eventually picked up the basket. We're like, this is just a small version of that.
And that's how a lot of these things work.
Well, we're not that smart.
Another big one is how milk is dispensed. Like that's been something that I think especially because we've been able to make the espresso preparation happen so quickly, the milk is becoming the bottleneck more and more, or like just getting the milk into the drink. So we've tried a variety of dispensers for it. There's some interesting ones like the Juggler in Australia, which is the under-counter one, but that's really expensive and still a little bit inconsistent.
Yeah.
And strangely enough, like the thing we found that's the fastest is a barista holding a jug of milk.
Yeah. We couldn't disrupt that part. Honestly, and I'm not plugging this because they're here, but I think it's been almost always been a mistake to rely too heavily on any non-Mazer grinders, especially when you're in the heat of service. And we all love to complain about Mazer grinders as a industry, which is unfair. But you have to understand how much value there is to a machine that I could carry to the top of this building, heave off the side, come back down, pick it up, put it back on bar, and it would start right up without a sneeze.
Yeah, with every new grinder we've seen, there is always one good reason, right off the bat, that's pretty clear of why it's better than the standard Mazer Rover or whatever, and that's always clear. And then there's always one reason why it's under no circumstances not, and you find that out in the middle of your busiest day when things start to go south.
Yeah, that's the worst.
We, as far as sort of out there things that we've tried, for a while we would take out the portafilters and we'd take out the baskets and we'd remove that wire that holds in the basket. And we started dosing into just the basket outside of the portafilter. And the idea is that we could have these pre-ground, pre-weighed, pre-tamped espresso pods of varying amounts, right? So we could have a triple basket for this drink, we could have a single basket for this drink, we could do, whatever, and they'd all be ready, and you just throw them in the machine, and it would go in, and right away it'd be done. And I'm talking myself into it right now, but in practical purposes, it did not work at all.
And I think what's important is that to understand is that our failures have been as informative and as formative to who we are as the successes are.
Yeah, and realistically, a lot of the things that we fail at, we're going to come back to later on. We're trying to solve problems.
We are dumb.
And and just because the solution didn't work doesn't mean that the problem goes away.
Yeah, and I think that's something to keep in mind. Every coffee bar is different, but no coffee business is a painting. You don't finish it, hang it on the wall, and admire it, never to touch it again. Your coffee shop, your cafe, your roasting business, everything is up for revision at any point. And I would say that if we've done anything well, it's been our willingness to burn the whole thing down and start again. And please also keep in mind that nothing that we're talking about is anything more than our story.
Yeah, this isn't a prescription.
This is not prescriptive to all coffee shops. But what I would recommend is that you find your goals, you identify a clear way to get them, and start from there.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, thanks guys for sharing all that. We've got about, we'll say 5 minutes
Okay.
for some Q&A. So, boom. Ren, stand up please.
First of all, bravo. Seriously, amazing. This is kind of an awkward question, but with the walk up anywhere and with people often feeling quite self-important, how often do members of your team run into people being like, "Hey, man, I've been over here," and they just walked up?
It happens. I mean, it's
less and less over time.
Less and less over time. It's something that you get good at. It's something that we're getting better at. It is I would say that with the 360-degree coffee bar, it allows us to do so many things that we wouldn't be able to do otherwise. When it works, we are doing these insane hours, and it just feels smooth, right? It feels organic. Somebody walks up and stuff just happens. When it doesn't work, when the wheels come off, it's a train wreck, right? And that's made us have to be...
The thing I tell all of our staff at every meeting is that when we are prepared, we are the best coffee bar on earth, and when we are not, we are easily the worst coffee bar on earth.
And so the fact that we're constantly hanging over the precipice of complete chaos and apocalypse means that we're a little bit more on our game, I think, overall.
But your folks doing their best to see who came up next.
Yeah, definitely. And this is
actually, everybody has zones. Yeah. So in a practical way, let's say we have 6 people with points of sale. There's 2 people on the back bar, and they each have their zone that they cover. And then there's usually 3 people up front, and then there's somebody who's sort of a spare. And everybody has a color-coded POS / drink tag combination. So when they put a drink in the queue, they put a swatch of fabric that is the same color as their point of sale, which is an iPad mini, so it can go anywhere, under the cup. So we can always find where it will go out to. But we try to prepare for the number of customers we can expect versus like actual sort of linear area that people need to cover so that they can manage and see what's happening at any given time.
And generally speaking, what we've seen is that with our staff, like they have the power to do whatever it takes to sort of take care of customers, make sure that they're happy, and what we found is that the more empowered they are to do that, the more it matters to them, right? Because it's their service.
Yeah.
Thank you. When you tried to take the basket out of the portafilter and douse it and tap it, why didn't it work?
It took longer.
What was it?
Why didn't the
it actually, honestly, so taking the basket out, it's something that I would love to try a little bit down the line. The biggest issues were, the single biggest issue was cleaning the basket. It's surprisingly easy to clean a basket when you have it connected to a portafilter. It's a lot harder and a lot more time intensive to clean a basket efficiently when it's not. That's something that technology could fix, but yeah, at the time that didn't work. Also, spatial constraints are a real thing.
Okay, can I ask another one?
Yeah, for sure.
Why not go to the pods? The biggest issue with pods is it's made 6 months ago.
Yeah.
But since you're grinding
That's
it
a
right
big
there,
issue.
why not make the pod right there?
Yeah,
half an hour before you make the espresso.
That's kind of what the basket idea was, and like definitely like if we could get the same quality having like a pod style system that we do having a sort of a standard third wave espresso bar system, and the pods were faster.
That sounds like a dream.
That's a dream.
How's it going?
Okay.
Go Get 'em Tiger and G&B, how are they different? How are they similar? And then how do you deal with the customer side being slower than
Well,
you guys? Like finalizing the transaction with their credit cards or their cash, whether this, that, and the other.
How do we deal with finalizing?
If a customer is taking their time or there's some sort of slowdown on their end, you're saying?
Exactly.
Yeah.
We can help many people at the same time. So like the best, there's the position that name of the person who is serving all the customers at the bar. We call them CSs, which is just stands for customer service. The best CSs, the really, really talented ones, if they get 5 people walking up to their zone all at once, they'll get all 5 of those orders, get them in the queue, then queue them up in the POS by looking at them and seeing, is this person ready to pay or no? Some people have their credit card in their hand, that person's ready to pay right away. Some people are texting and aloof, and so they're not maybe ready right away. So that's a matter of sort of reading, what's happening, but there's always work for the CS to do because there's always people coming up. And we do bar tabs, so somebody can open a tab and order whatever they like, a bunch of stuff, and load up their tab and then pay at the end as well. So, yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about how do you keep service intimate doing 1,500 drinks a day, like from the person-to-person interaction?
I would say in most coffee shop circumstances, even when things are relatively slow, the barista is only interacting with the customer for 15, 20 seconds. Like it's generally very, very, very minor. And then the whole way that the space functions is to get them out of the service area and into a customer area where nobody interacts with them. And the intimacy in our system, there's always going to be a limit to it, right? Unless it's certain hours, like later in the day when we can do a little bit more special service. The intimacy in our circumstances is based less off of giving somebody 3 minutes of our time right off of the bat, and more just being there to serve them while they're in our space. Being aware, hyper attentive available, just understanding what their next need is going to be, and then helping them out with it.
Yeah, and intimacy isn't only defined by leaning in real close and whispering. There's a lot of different forms, and I think it's a form of intimacy that we come to you rather than you coming to us. It's a form of intimacy that you can order, receive your drink your drink at the bar, order another drink, and pay sort of at your leisure.
And we're letting people into our world. So somebody can come up to a spot at the bar, right, which is the point of sale for them, order a drink, sit there, and just experience everything that's going on around them. Like just drink their cappuccino right there in the world. And even if the barista never interacts with them, like they're in our home.
Right. And the other the other cool thing that happens, which I think is a form of intimacy, is when we're busy, not only do we have our zones that we're controlling, but little zones of customers form, because you're not staring at the back of the other person's head. You are shoulder to shoulder. You're drinking an invigorating beverage that, it's one of its purposes in our worlds is to increase alertness and get us talking. And so you have neighbors, or you have people who see each other all the time, or people meeting for the first time at that bar having their own things. People meet each other at G&B more than any other coffee bar I've ever seen.
And that's a mark of success on our end. Like that we look at that, and every time that happens, we're like, it works. The space works. What we're doing works. Like this is the community coffee shop that we envision. And from the early days, the bar style service has facilitated the oh, what are you drinking? I've seen you here before. I'm Charles. And to the degree that we have cliques and groups of customers who come from very disparate places in this world and have very different views of the world in general, but they're G&B friends. They're it's the crew.
All right, everybody, let's hear a big round of applause for Kyle and Charles. Thanks very much, guys. Aww.